International Open Wheel League, live on VirtualRacing.Network. Of course, I am your host and commentator, Trevor Radio for this is the season 10. Today's race is season 18, race 8 of 12, 152 laps here at Gateway. It's the Worldwide Technology Raceway, of course, officially, but always familiar to us as Gateway in Madison, Illinois. A mile and a quarter, so a bit of a unique distance and a bit of a unique shape. That should hopefully lead to some unique action on the track, side-by-side action, and close quarters racing. So as we get into practice here, just about to jump into qualifying, let's go ahead and send it down trackside. We'll be able to pick up all the action on the track. Track, just putting in his very first warm-up lap here, getting up to speed. We also see MJ Ramirez taking to the track quite quickly. Mike almost losing the car there on exiting the pits, and so far nobody to put in a time, but Mike will be the first one to do so. Of course, as I mention always, Mike, the chief steward here in the International Open Wheel League. And of course, always doing the race penalties after each and every race. So great to have him as part of the team, and always doing a great job after each race to make sure that that race report is filed and timely and tries to be as fair as possible. So taking a look at it, it looks like Iñigo Mardones improper pit procedure, only receiving a warning for that. Van Linden from last week also had several infractions, but and also Jimmy Drennan improper pit procedure, but none of those resulting in penalties, I don't believe. So with that, Mike West goes fastest with his very first lap, as you can imagine. MJ Ramirez putting his time into the books. Rick Lovison just getting in his time out there on the track. And that's good enough for third fastest. Rick Kelbaugh for Team Stick Quick now puts his car into the show in fourth so far. That's on his very first lap. See that... just about to see some other cars heading out there. There's Rick, as I mentioned, just finishing up. We do have Ryan Bowles in the field. Graham Bunyan just getting in his very first lap. A little slow, but that's to be expected on the first lap. Rick Kelbaugh getting in his fastest lap there and putting it into second place. So another great qualifying effort from Rick. We'll see what Graham Bunyan can do. He did not win last week. That was Edward Lack who showed up and managed to do some great things in his race car, but this week it looks like Graham Bunyan fast enough so far for pole position. We'll jump over to Ryan Bowles as he now tries to put his number 25 somewhere towards the front of the field. As he heads down that long straightaway, he completes his first lap, good enough for fifth fastest. David Strid's first lap is good enough for third fastest. Ryan continuing here down the back stretch. It's kind of egg-shaped layout here at Gateway, and definitely some things to consider during the race, but here in qualifying, it's all about your fastest two laps. Bowles goes second with that lap, and Strid puts in his time. Good enough for pole position and bounces everyone down a little bit. There's Jason Lowe getting in his second lap. Now, Jason may be a little bit struggling today with his computer. Might possibly end up crashing out. Hopefully not. Hopefully everything's all fixed, but going through some real technical difficulties this week. Having some blue screens of death. Those of you on the Windows platform know exactly what that's all about. But in this case, very difficult to diagnose, so still working on that issue. Dan Ensch getting in that second lap for the ALZ.org Last Lap Motorsports team. Only good enough to bounce him up to 6th fastest there with a 24.79. It's about it's about a quarter of a second off of David Strid's time in his Dallara IR-18. Iñigo Mardones not putting in a lap thus far, so I don't think we will be seeing him out there. And so with that, I think that will be our final qualifier. And we'll just have to wait for this session to go official. Once again, great to have you with us here on VirtualRacing.Network. We've been doing this for quite a long time, and it's always great to continue to race at all of these great official tracks that the Real Life Series visits and get to race these cars, albeit broadcasting underground as we always seem to do, but still always enjoyable nevertheless. So taking a look on David Strid, just about to grid up. Let's go ahead and show you the official starting order for today's race here. The Gateway 190 at Worldwide Technology Raceway for the International Open Wheel League. It's race number 8. David Strid taking pole position, and alongside him will be none other than Graham Bunyan, who leads that championship. We'll get to the points here in just a minute. On the second row, in third place, Ryan Bowles is back in the cockpit. He might have something to say about today's victory lane celebration. We'll find out. Jason Lowe going to be starting there in the 4th spot on the second row. On the third row, it'll be Mike West. And, of course, I always like to mention the team names. Jason Lowe, of course, racing for Rescue Ranch, and we have his sponsored races coming up here very shortly for Florida Urgent Rescue and Rescue Ranch as well. Dan Ensch for the ALZ.org Last Lap Motorsports team will be starting in 6th on the outside of row 3. Row 4 will be Team Stickwick's Richard Kelbaugh, and alongside Mauro M.J. Ramirez, the president of the International Open Wheel League. On the 5th row, it will be Rick Lovison, and starting next to Rick, Iñigo Mardones, who did not take a time, and just 10 starters here today, so probably a pretty good time to put in a plug and say that if you're ever thinking about getting out there and racing and being part of this show, we certainly would welcome that, and you'll find the link down in the description. Feel free to sign on up. Certainly can get out there for season number 9, season number 18, but season 19, as always, just around the corner, just a little over a month and a half away. So with that, we are just about to get things going here. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the points standings as they are right now after 7 races. Graham Bunyan in the top, as he has been, by 35 points, so quickly growing that margin. David Strid in 2nd, Jason Lowe in 3rd. But you see how tight that battle continues to be. Dan Ensch not out of 3rd. Certainly if Jason Lowe continues to have technical issues, that could be in question for 3rd in the championship. A number of these drivers battling it out, though, for that middle of the pack. Multiple drivers still in contention for 4th place. So just as we are ready to go, it will be David Strid leading us down to the green flag here in just a moment. Just about to kick this one off, and 152 laps as mentioned here at the beautiful Worldwide Technology Raceway. On board with David. He lights it off, and we are officially green here at Gateway. As they march down towards turn 1, everybody still staying exactly where they started. MJ Ramirez making up a spot a little bit further back. There's Ryan Bowles trying to challenge, and he does. Actually, Jason Lowe trying to challenge, but he does not try to make a move yet. There, he tries to go the inside. Lowe taking a look, thinking about it. Not quite able to get there. And it looks like Bowles going to push out a little bit wider there. Jason Lowe now going to take that move down the inside. And Lowe thinks he's going to take that position. Is he going to? In fact, definitely Bowles taking that high line and, in fact, able to hang on there. So, tight battle here for third place, as it looks like Bowles. And we've got some incident here. This is involving Mike West and MJ Ramirez, who continues to be snake bit. Unfortunately for MJ, it looks like caught up in another one. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here. This was MJ. We'll take a look from his perspective. This was just behind Dan Ensch. And he goes the outside. Looks like Mike West really has a problem there. Let's see if we can tell from his perspective exactly what took place. I think Kelbaugh had just gotten by. Let's see if we can tell if, I don't know if this is part of it. We'll look at Rick Kelbaugh's point of view. And I can see them already tangling ahead. So we'll check this out one more time just from Mike's point of view. What exactly happens here? And you can see Mike gets loose on entry. Brings it down onto the grass. That is never where you want to go in one of these situations. And unfortunately for him, he ends up collecting MJ Ramirez, who was nowhere even close to that incident. But Mike shoots up the track and right into MJ. And that, unfortunately, that puts MJ into the pits. So this is what it looked like here just a moment ago from MJ's point of view. Get ready for this one. Right in your face. Times like this, very happy that it's a simulated race and all of these drivers are okay. MJ back out there, though. Did he lose a lap? It does... I can't quite tell if he's lost a lap yet. It doesn't look like he has. No, it shows that he's on the same lap, so good deal. Looks like MJ's going to get to catch up to the field, and we still have another lap under pace car, so we'll wait for that one, and we'll be right back here on VirtualRacing.Network. Everybody back together again. Looks like Mike West got his damage fixed, and we'll have a full field descend into turn one in just a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back here on VirtualRacing.Network. Getting ready to send it again into turn one. Hopefully we make it more than a few laps this time. But David Strid still in command here, just about to send it down to turn one once again. Graham Bunyan will be starting just behind. Green flag is in the air. The light bulbs pop on the front straightaway, and we are go again. And it looks like Rick Lovison, MJ Ramirez battling it out for that position. MJ staying ahead there. And back up in front. Looks like this battle of Ryan Bowles has just stayed in front of Jason Lowe on this start. And now Bowles up, getting close to Graham Bunyan. And we'll see whether or not Bowles can manage to find his way around the multiple consecutive champion and defending champion Graham Bunyan. Will Bunyan see victory lane here today? Will he possibly end up in that champion seat once again at the end of the season? It's not been decided, but it's leaning in that direction. I think with some performances like this, David Strid might be able to start to claw his way back into this championship. But Jason Lowe is just going to pretty much hope to stay connected today and try and hold on to that third place in the championship. David Strid flying high here at Gateway, just now working on lap number 10 of 152. And right about now, you're going to start to see some things break open as these drivers just start to feel out these tires and start to make their first adjustments to the car. This is also one of those tracks where long-term pace might become a factor as things start to get a little bit spread out and you do have to start making some serious adjustments to the car. But we'll see. Things have kind of changed a little bit, I've noticed, in the recent seasons that the International Open Wheel League has been racing. It's not quite as dependent on car adjustments as maybe once it was, and that speaks to overall, I think, the Dallara IR-18. But today's race notes coming to us, as always, from Dan Ensch of the ALZ.org Glass Lap Motorsports team. And he says, today the fuel window is laps 35 to 39. Of course, we've just had some cautions, so you'll have to extend that just a little bit. Another rhythm driver's track, and that's exactly what I was kind of alluding to there, is it's all about finding that rhythm with your car. Unfortunately, Dan Ensch is now finding himself at the back, so not sure if he's playing another strategy game today. Either way, he says it's a, go fast or go slow to go fast, and that means, and now we've got a 4-car battle here for position. But he says go slow to go fast, and what that means is, it's like, for those of you that are into golfing, and this really applies to a lot of things in life. They say take 10% off, and you'll find that things, this is a heck of a battle here going on between Rick Lovison, Iñigo Mardones, and Mike West and Dan Ensch. So I'm going to keep watching this battle materialize. But, yeah, you take 10% off, and it just straightens everything out. And frequently we have a tendency as racing drivers to try a little hard to make passes and go fast. But when you take a little bit off, you back the corners up a little bit, you tend to treat the tires a little bit better on the race car, and as a result, you end up going much faster in the long run, and you end up preserving the car. So that coming from Dan Ensch. And then it's midnight race on a cool track, so tires shouldn't be much of a factor. Always have to be aware of the gateway glitch of getting flagged for passing under the yellow on the way to the pits, and that's really because there is a separate pit entry lane to get to the pits, and it can be very difficult to spot the driver on the outside. As we see Rick Lovison starting to move to the back here, he has been losing positions and now is finding himself in last, unfortunately. I'm not sure if there is an issue going on with Lovison's Berkshire Lakefront Lodge machine, but either way, he's trying to get it back under control and keep that thing pointed forward. And as always, we do appreciate the notes coming to us from Dan Ensch. MJ Ramirez there in 5th with Rick Kelbaugh just getting past, but Rick up still a position from where he started. MJ now up 3 positions. So after that incident, able to get the car repaired. Great job by the MJ crew. And now back in this one, looking at a possible top 5. Up front, it's good old David Strid. the number 48 machine picking up where he left off. This is kind of more what we're used to seeing out of David Strid, though I have to say it's been a few races that hasn't quite been as effective out there on the track, and not really sure exactly why that has been. A little bit of a drop in pace, but he does seem to be back underway and getting things done here today, and that's the main thing. So Strid leading this race so far. He's led every lap from pole position, and sitting in second place, of course, your championship leader, Graham Bunyan. So these two flip-flop from where their position is in that championship. In third place, we got Ryan Bowles, who has been one of the front runners just about any time that he can get behind the wheel of one of these race cars. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for him as well that he can't get out there for the whole season, because he could really at least mount a charge to try to take third or possibly second in the championship. But any week that he can be competitive is an exciting week. Any week that he can show up, he can be competitive. So we always love to see him in the field. Same thing with Edward Lack whenever he can show up. But here today, Jason Lowe for the Rescue Ranch still holding on strong in that fourth place. So not sure if Jason is going to continue to have this kind of pace over the whole race, but so far holding strong, as I mentioned. And M.J. Ramirez, your top five. You see the 53-year-old out of NRH, Texas, down near Dallas-Fort Worth. And as I mentioned, Snakebit just always seems to find these incidents and these just always seems to get tangled up in other people's incidents. And he goes out there, touches the wall a little bit on exit. Just a little dust, no problem. Hey, if you're out there and you're watching, you can say hi in the chat room. See a few of you out there. We do appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Not that it does anything for these unlisted races, though obviously we do hope that we can rectify that in the future. But let me know you're watching. Let me know who you're rooting on. And we always appreciate that. Rick Kelbaugh sitting in that sixth spot for Team Stick Quick, continuing his solid run of, close to top five, if not top fives. Definitely has seen a lot of pace improvement over the course of the last season or season and a half. And Rick's still dealing with health issues, but manages to make it out there each and every week and represent stickquick.com as always. Even getting in a sponsored race this season, and that was just fantastic to be able to reminisce like old days and do a live read of the stickquick.com sponsorship. That was something else. So if you didn't catch that broadcast, it was just a few races ago. Had a lot of fun doing it. But today, Stick Quick Machine up a position in sixth place. And as I mentioned, today it looks like everybody is just kind of trying to feel out these long runs here. Mike West, after recovering from that earlier incident, it looks like everything's kind of straightened out for him. He's running here in seventh place, down 2 positions from where he started, but able to put in laps that are pretty good out there. David Strid's best lap at 24.81, and it looks like Mike West's best lap at 24.86. So last lap 24.98. So actually putting in some great laps, keeping the temp in the tires, keeping everything pointed in the right direction. Right now, Mike West, the Washingtonian, holding on to the 7th place. Iñigo Mardones up 2 spots from the back of the field where he started. And that Necky Racing team, always great open wheel racing team in the official iRacing series. And looks like Iñigo up 2 spots, as I mentioned, from where he started in 10th. Dan Ensch starting to trail him from behind. We might see Dan start to make a pass here in any moment. So we watch on here as Dan now takes a look down to the inside in turn 1, and he will, in fact, try to take that position. And the crossover move, but looks like Iñigo still side by side as they march down to turn number 3. Side by side, but Dan Ensch moves through once again on the outside line, and that'll move Dan back up into 7th place. So Dan still down a spot from where he started, but starting to bring that car back forward. See if the NALZ machine can manage to do that. And I see that it looks like Jason Lowe has entered the pits. Jason Lowe entered pit lane. I wonder if he didn't have a problem with his machine. Let's take a look here and see if we can tell. This was just a moment ago. This looks like a pretty standard pit stop. He was running behind Ryan Bowles. He indicates he's coming into the pits, so this was so that was Jason Lowe making a planned pit stop there. And here comes David Strid down into the pits as well. He is followed by Ryan Bowles, and that actually leaves Graham Bunyan, who now makes his way down pit lane. As you can see, this pit entry is quite tricky, and once again, under yellow, you really have to be careful. It's gotten me, it's gotten many drivers, but basically, as you enter the pits, you can't really see where the car is on the outside that you're supposed to be following. Now, you're supposed to keep pace with the car that you follow, regardless of whether you're on the pit entry lane and they're on the track. It doesn't make any difference. So you kind of have to watch your relative timing box. And once you can watch your relative, then you can tell that you're, just a little bit ahead, a little bit behind that car. There will also be a notification that says stay behind the so-and-so car. And that will tell you that you're supposed to, back up a little bit. And so those are indicators, but you really have to be heads up here and just really watch what you're doing. Looks like Rick Lovison dropping into the pits there, along with Mike West, Rick Kelbaugh, M.J. Ramirez, Dan Ensch, and Iñigo Mardones, the drivers that were 5th and 7th and 9th, now coming into the pits at this point. MJ took over the lead. Now we're going to see David Strid come around here, not for too long, and he will. Dan Ensch, though, stretching that fuel tank as I thought he might do. He just loves to do that. He seems to know how to squeeze every last drop. I had a chance to run a race yesterday in a different league with Dan, and he did exactly the same thing. Was able to squeeze an extra couple of laps out where nobody else could. Sometimes that plays a factor in these races. Sometimes, I hate to say the dreaded yellow word, but yeah, sometimes that yellow flag does come out at an opportune time and gives you a chance to kind of trap people a lap down or half a lap down. And by staying out there on the track, you manage to do that in effect. But right now, Dan Ensch pulls it into the pits. And we see Iñigo Mardones now starting to work his way under and put MJ Ramirez a lap down. Of course, MJ has made his pit stop, and Iñigo Mardones on a light fuel tank. So we're going to see Iñigo here drop into the pits before too long, and that will turn back over the race lead once again to David Strid here momentarily. put the track map up there. That way you can follow along with where your favorite driver is. I know sometimes when you're under green for a long period of time, it can get a little bit spread out, so a little bit easier to follow with where visually everyone is. But so far, everybody making that pit road work okay, and that is key. Now, we'll take a look here. It does look like Jason Lowe has managed to get back out in front of Ryan Bowles. So I'm not sure if that was just during the pit stop cycle. I have to take a look for that. But also looks like Mike West and Dan Ensch battling for position. And almost looked like West was headed for the wall, but it's like Ensch able to get back by once again. Now you see Iñigo Mardones tucking back into that battle after taking a pit stop. So these two continue to battle on as David Strid has now retaken that lead. Looks like he's got a very small lead, but it continues to be his race so far, and these two continue to swap positions, racing very close here for what is 6th position on the track. Ensch taking that position once again from West. West trying the high line here. So West trying to pick off this position from Dan Ensch and working on it lap after lap here, just trying to get it figured out how he can possibly make that pass, but not seeing it happen yet. We'll watch to see whether or not he can manage to at some point take that position, but it looks like he's starting to struggle here as Dan Ensch starts moving back forward in that ALZ.org last lap motorsports machine. Now you see Mike West actually, just bring the camera back there for a second, that's actually David Strid, who has Graham Bunyan in tow and is trying to keep Bunyan behind him, just trying to hold pace as they just now put down Mike West a lap. So already lapped up to 7th. Dan Ensch would be next on the list, and that's probably why Dan got to move on. He does not want to go a lap down. So Bunyan now holding close tow behind Strid. These two kind of engaged in their own battle of sorts. They've managed to pull out about a 4.5-second lead on Jason Lowe for the Rescue Ranch in 3rd. And Bowles is about a second off of that. So these two not battling each other. Graham Bunyan with a lot of patience here so far, as we've just gone over a third of the way through this race. A lot of green flag racing thus far. It's always great to see. Gives everybody a chance to work their strategy out. Bunyan pulls up very close behind. He'll back out again. Try and work on, perhaps he's saving a little bit of fuel, perhaps he's just hanging out behind David Strid. Either way, if he wanted to force the issue, I'm sure he would. But these two just about to encounter Dan Ensch just up the track. You see a little blink out there from David. So never want to see that, but it looks like everything's back to okay. So Bunyan back in control in second place, but this has given Jason Lowe a little bit of a gap closure. Let's see if we can, if it even shows on the time delta. That's not quite correct. There we go. So you can see how the gap had been extended a little bit further out, and now it's come back down a little bit in the last two laps. Undoubtedly having to work around Mike West was part of the issue, but Lowe in that third spot, up a position so far today. Bowles dropping from third to fourth. And you see Iñigo Mardones blinking out just a little bit on the screen. But fortunately, Lowe seems to still be in the race. And that's the main thing, as he was, as I mentioned, having those difficulties, technical difficulties with his computer. So let's take a look at another graphic while we can. This is our pit lane time graphic. And as you can see, looks like fastest drivers out there would be Jason Lowe once again with the fastest pit lane time, 37.58. And that's 0.3 faster than David Strid, 0.4, almost 0.4, about 3.5 faster than Graham Bunyan, and all three of those drivers in the 37s on pit lane. Jason actually getting the fastest pit time as well. And, you know, one of the questions that I think I'm going to ask Jason at the end of this race, if he ends up in third place, is whether he, as he works under Iñigo Mardones and puts him a lap down to himself. But one of the questions is I wonder if that virtual reality headset doesn't in fact help his depth perception and his ability to hit those marks a little bit more efficiently, because one of the factors that determines the pit time, which we can see here, if I change this over to pit stop time, there you can see once again it's Jason Lowe leading that. You know, there is a couple of tricks. One, you could under fuel. Two, you could just not take tires and it would cut down your time just a little bit. But, you know, certainly Jason Lowe has improved his pit stop times and his pit lane times. And in the pit stop time, if you hit your marks perfectly, that is when you can manage to get the fastest pit stop time, because your team doesn't have to move around the car. Now, that's one of the things that we can't bring you on broadcast is the ability to see the car moving, or the car once it enters the box. You'd be able to see the team usually be able to surround the car, and you know, you have your own pit stop crew that tries to work on the car and come and change the tires, take off the old tires, etc. But what happens is, as we see Jason Lowe just bringing it in now. So let's watch Jason. Wow, really close to the outside of the pit lane. And there he manages to get it slowed down efficiently on entry. And Lowe now bringing it down pit lane. So we'll watch on here. And what you're watching for is, you see how he stops in one place there. Now you would be seeing if we were racing, and it's so sad that we can't actually show this as in the mode that we have to use to broadcast these races. But if we were on board with Jason, we would see that pit crew surround his car. And the main thing is that if you don't stop on the marks, let's say you're an extra foot forward or a foot back, the team has to adjust to the position of the car. So they have to move forward, they have to move backward, and that takes an extra little bit of time. Another thing is, if you go past where your pit stall is and you move, say, into the next pit stall, you actually have to back your car up, and that can contribute to another, of course, delay in your pit stop and delay on pit road. So here's Ryan Bowles. He's going to make his way down, try and make a pit stop this time. Jason Lowe for the Rescue Ranch that time having a 8.18 pit stop. So still faster than most of the rest of the field on their first pit stops. But it is a trick. It's not the easiest thing to get right. I struggled with it yesterday. One of the things that you really struggle with on pit lane entry is just making sure that you get down to that ridiculously slow speed that you have to get down to on the entrance to pit road. It can just be agonizingly slow to get down to speed there. But either way, David Strid, your leader, has now made his way down pit lane. M.J. Ramirez sits in his pit stall taking service as Strid now takes on his service. And Graham Bunyan enters pit lane as well. So that yellow commitment cone is the one that you have to get your pit speed down to. And again, you just watch these cars just kind of crawl along here. And, it's just agonizing to have to get down to such a speed, but you do have to do it, and unfortunately there's no other thing you can do than just have to execute perfectly getting down to that speed. So we watch on. Dan Ensch continues to circulate here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. You're watching race number 8 of 12 for season 18. As mentioned, always great to have everybody watching live here. We've got several of you out there in YouTube land. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already, which I imagine that you are, but also feel free to like this video. And certainly, you're welcome to stick around to Mondays and Tuesdays. We have to wait another week or so till we'll get to another Monday race here on VirtualRacing.Network. That's for the Nora Truck Series. And then Tuesday nights, pretty much every single week, follows the real-life NASCAR schedule. It's the Nora Cup Series. So we've been calling those now for several weeks and been having a great time. Great news to be having a full-time co-commentator in at least for a few races in the Nora Cup Series, so always makes it more exciting to have a couple of people in the booth. And either way, feel free to check that out. Best way to do it is to subscribe, and then you will get notified of future upcoming races, of course. Iñigo Mardones and Dan Ensch still sticking around out front on lap number 73, just hitting 74 here, just about to hit halfway through this race. Just a couple more laps to go. And this is kind of a long one, but as Dan was mentioning in his pre-race notes, it's all about finding that rhythm out there. It's such a great track to drive. Let's see if we can watch on board with Dan here. And as you go down this front straightaway, you really have to break the car down here for turns 1 and 2. You come down in gear, and just depends on what your driving style is, but you have to find your way through that corner. Here in the next corner, 3 and 4, it lays out like it's almost like Milwaukee. It's kind of like the third corner at Pocono. It just has a great expanding field. I believe it is well, it's a symmetrical corner, but it's almost a decreasing radius. Nevertheless, once you get the car broken down correctly on entry, you can just stay on the gas, completely exiting off of turn 4. And the point is that you just get into this rhythm out there of driving the car at its limit, so to speak. Now, this was just a moment ago. I think this was on track. Here's Ryan Bowles getting by Jason Lowe for that position. So, Bowles right on by the Rescue Ranch driver for that 3rd position. And Bowles continuing to run well. Here goes Graham Bunyan by David Strid as we were just in that replay there showing the pass between Bowles and Lowe. Looks like Graham Bunyan decides, okay, it's my turn to come to the front. We're over halfway. I'll do some of the leading now. So Bunyan emerges at the front after that round of pit stops. And we have M.J. Ramirez possibly having a crash, and that brings out our caution here at Gateway. It was bound to happen eventually there. It looks like he's already sideways. Let's back it up. Looks like it is a single car incident. And perhaps just a little... that is one thing that happens here is... you're trying to hold that inside line. I'm going to see if I can back that up just one more time here. But you're trying to hold that inside line coming off of turn number 4, because the more that you can do that, the better of a run you really get down the straightaway. And the car just wants to sit in that groove and just kind of work its way around the corner. But it looks like perhaps too much weight jacker, not really sure. Just either way, the car comes around, and that takes MJ out of contention for today's race. So that will move everybody up a notch. So that'll put Dan Ensch, even though he's currently shown a lap down, that will put him up into that 5th spot. Ryan Bowles and Jason Lowe taking advantage of this quick chance to take a pit stop. And it looks like Bowles will get back out in front of Lowe. So with that, we're going to take our own little pit stop. We will be right back here on VirtualRacing.Network with more green flag coverage of the International Open Wheel League, race number 8 here at Gateway. Stay tuned. and welcome back here on VirtualRacing.Network as we just get through our second caution on the day. So great to be able to be back to green flag racing, as we had just a great long green flag stint there. 50 some laps of green flag racing here at Worldwide Technology Raceway, and we're underway here once again at Gateway. So you are watching round number 8 of the International Open Wheel League's Season 18, and Graham Bunyan currently in the lead. David Strid led most of the first part of this race. So we've just gone over halfway, and Graham Bunyan emerging up front. Ryan Bowles and Jason Lowe have been embroiled in a battle for that third spot, and it looks like Bowles on the top of that at the moment. Dan Ensch currently sitting, I guess, a lap down. I'm not sure exactly what put him a lap down. I thought he had gotten back onto the lead lap, but still sitting a lap down at the moment. And it looks like Jason Lowe has gotten by Ryan Bowles. Bowles now dropping back, and perhaps he had a moment there, as now it looks like Bowles has recovered and now trying to get back by Mike West, and that's not for position. West a lap down, so Bowles racing hard to try to get back up there in front. And now it looks like Mike West under attack from Iñigo Mardones. So as that kind of straightens out there, let's back it up and take a look and see. This was, oh, and you can see with Kelbaugh there on the outside. Oh, it looks like Bowles really had a wiggle. We'll see if we can jump back and take a look from Bowles' point of view exactly what it looked like. This is on board with Bowles. It was 3 wide for just a second, then with Kelbaugh dropping out. Oh, it looks like Bowles just started to come around, very similar to what we saw M.J. Ramirez struggle with there not long ago. So manages to recover, and then manages to get back by Mike West. So back up in front, it's Graham Bunyan and David Strid, Jason Lowe in third, and Ryan Bowles in that 4th spot. And then already a lap down, Dan Ensch, Mike West, Iñigo Mardones, Rick Lovison, and MJ Ramirez. So just about, let's see, 60 more laps to go here. These drivers will need to make at least another 1 pit stop. Let's see. Last stopped on lap 70, so they'll probably need to make another 2 pit stops before this one is over. And at the moment, it looks like fastest last time on pit road was, as always, Jason Lowe. Not on pit lane, but his fastest pit time was Jason Lowe, and we'll bring that up, and then you can compare that as, of course, Bunyan and Strid not stopping. But then pit lane time, it looks like Jason Lowe a little bit slower overall, 39 seconds. But didn't really need to do much, as they were under yellow when he made that pit stop. So did not have to rush his way on and off of pit road, certainly. Graham Bunyan, your leader still, with David Strid not far back. Just about 0.3 of a second back. And then it's 4 seconds back now to Jason Lowe, who's right now struggling with some lap traffic. That's, is that Dan Ensch just up in front? I believe that's Dan. And so Jason Lowe now getting a little bit of dirty air off the back of Dan Ensch. But Lowe doing a great job of now holding on to third. However, here comes Ryan Bowles. Bowles now closing in to within 0.6 of a second. Jump back to his car. And there's Bowles. If you look on that track map on the right, you can see already the sizable lead that front two have already pulled out on the rest of the field. Of course, again, them not stopping this last time, and that will put them on a very different strategy than these other drivers, but they're still secure in their strategy, so no harm, no foul, just a chance for them to operate a little bit lighter of race cars at the beginning of this stint. And Bulls now within 0.5. We might see a challenge here for that third spot here before too long. Ryan Bowles gets up closer and closer to that Kirby machine of Jason Lowe. Will we see a pass here? It is indeed likely. And so Lowe is going to try to get by Ensch, but he's not able to have the pace to get by Ensch. And it looks like Bowles might have a lunge before too long. He's right up behind now. So Rick Kelbaugh now back out of the pits. Working on lap number 99, just about to hit an even 100, and then just 52 laps remaining for these drivers to get the passes done that they need to do. Ryan Bowles here just wants to get up there and challenge for that third spot. It looks like Jason Lowe gets a little held back on Dan Ensch just a bit, as Ensch trying to fight for every inch that he can on this racetrack. Looks like Lowe getting a little bit held up, and as a result, here comes Ryan Bowles down the inside into turn one. The two go side by side through the corner. Lowe takes the high side, and it looks like Bowles had a bit of an issue coming through the corner there. So you see also MJ Ramirez's car starting to emerge in the background. MJ now down in 9th place after that incident, several laps down. But Bowles not able to carry off that pass, and as a result has slipped back to over a half a second back from Lowe. You can see how far up in front Lowe is. So I'm not sure. I guess let's take another look, and maybe we can tell exactly what happened there with Ryan Bowles. We'll keep it on board with Bowles and see if we can determine exactly what the problem was. I think he just didn't quite get the car slowed down enough that he was going to push out too much up the track, and as a result, he just kind of bailed out. Now we have another yellow flag, and it's Jason Lowe. This time, this may be the incident that we were talking about. Let's see. Bowles had just gotten by. Let's see here. This is Bowles just passing Jason Lowe as Lowe goes spinning up the track. And I think what we're going to find out if we go and take a look from Jason Lowe's point of view, that he might have had another, he might have had a blue screen of death. And let's see here. He tries to move down the inside. No, he actually just gets a little too low on that curbing. And that's so interesting. We'll back it up here on your screen. This may not be blue screen of death. I'm not sure. We'll take a look here from on board. You know, it's really tough to tell. It very easily could have been a blue screen of death, because it certainly put him into a position where he ended up not being able to necessarily steer his way through the corner, and maybe he just kind of held his line thinking that that would be good enough, but unfortunately, obviously it was not. Now, it is possible to make that simple driving mistake very, very easy. We saw Mike West do it where he got loose on turn in, and it was basically the same thing where he just lost the car on entry. So with that, we're going to step aside for just a moment. We'll be right back here on VirtualRacing.Network. Don't go anywhere. A conclusion of this great race coming up here very shortly. Stay tuned. And the green flag is in the air from Barney the Flag Man. And we are back underway here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's Graham Bunyan, David Strid, and Ryan Bowles, your top three, with Dan Ensch in fourth place. Dan Ensch managing to get back onto that lead lap, so congratulations to him, albeit now kind of suffering back here a little bit. You see that Jason Lowe has managed to get back up into this one. However, he is now officially a lap down. Actually, make that, I believe, 2 laps down at the moment. And Ensch manages to get by David Strid, who's put it in the wall while we were just off camera there. Looks like a very rare incident for David Strid. Let's see if we can back this up. This was Bowles perhaps trying to take a lunge on David Strid. And you can see the two coming very close together there. I'm not sure if Bowles got into the back of him. We're going to take a look maybe from up above and see if that tells a little bit more of the story here. But as they come down through the corner, Bowles getting a very good run, and I would say there's some contact right there that sends David Strid sideways, and as a result puts David Strid into contact with the barrier And that really affects things, as Strid was up there in a top position in second place. Possibly would have had a chance on Graham Bunyan at the end of this one. But as a result, now Ryan Bowles also choosing to come down pit lane. Dan Ensch making a pit stop as well. So 42, 41 laps to go. This could actually be quite pivotal, as Graham Bunyan came in on lap 104, and he will need to pit before the end of this one unless we have a significant amount more yellow flags. This could be a key strategy move, as we know Dan Ensch able to get every last drop out of the tank, and he did say that they could go up to 39 laps. I believe he stretched it to 40 laps. And here with just 41 laps remaining, I'm not sure. It could do some real pedaling. I do know that. So if I were Graham Bunyan, I know it would have been painful. Now, this is just Trevor talking from the booth, and I'm not the multi-time champion. I see there he does come down. He is going to cover this, and that is a champion move right there. He knows he's going to lose the track position, but he waits that extra lap and comes in, even though he's going to lose that track position. No, he's going to head back out. So with that, he tries to fake everyone out. And I don't know how that's going to be seen later on, but either way, he decides he's going to fake everybody out and not come down pit lane. I personally would have covered that move from Bowles and Dan Ensch, because if Graham can't make it to the end and Bowles and Ensch can, I mean, that is really going to cost Graham a position. And as David Strid has managed to get back in this one, is still in the lead pack. I mean, Bunyan could drop as low as 5th, possibly even 6th with a pit stop. So I'm not. We'll find out how this one ends up here, but certainly if there is another caution, it will help these other drivers who might need to stretch their tank to make this fuel strategy run work. But this will be very interesting to watch here in the closing stages at this round number 8. So great chance for us to see some interesting changes here in strategy, and we'll find out whose strategy call will pay off. So your current top 5, Graham Bunyan is the top of the order at the moment, with Ryan Bowles in 2nd, Dan Ensch in 3rd, David Strid in 4th, and Iñigo Mardones in 5th. And we're seeing now Ensch and Strid choosing to come in and top off. This is absolutely going to solidify their chance to be out there and not have to make another pit stop. So this is a key moment of strategy here, and take a note that Ryan Bowles has not come down to do a top off on their tank. So this is, as I mentioned, going to be quite a change of strategy. We should definitely be able to see Dan Ensch and David Strid make it till the end. If a yellow flag comes out, it won't matter as much for Graham Bunyan. He'll be able to pit under yellow and then rejoin everybody just behind. But as it is now, Graham Bunyan last stopped on lap 104, and there's simply no way that with fuel saving he would be able to make it until the very end. So again, it's an interesting strategy call. He's the multi-time champion, not me. And we'll see how this all turns out. You see Iñigo Mardones sitting there in 2nd place, and then Jason Lowe in 3rd, Rick Lovison in 4th. Those drivers not for position, but we are back under green flag racing here at Gateway. This is Ryan Bowles fighting it out with David Strid here for 2nd and 3rd place on your track. They already have had it coming together, and I think Bowles is possibly going to face some sort of repercussions after this one is over here today for making contact, but that's yet to be seen. They still race for position out on the track. And David Strid right now, 3.87 seconds back of Graham Bunyan, but in effect, they don't really care. I don't think either Strid, Bowles, or Ensch care at all, as they are on the fuel to make it to the end, and Graham Bunyan cannot without a couple more cautions. So Strid managing to take that position from Bowles, and now he has set sail. And one of the things that Graham Bunyan could do is, if he could go fast enough, which I don't know if he's going to get this chance. So we're seeing last lap, Graham Bunyan 24.90 to Dan Ensch's 20. And now it looks like Bowles has decided to pit. So I'm not sure. Let's take a look back here just a little ways. This was Ensch coming up on Bowles. And then I think Bowles signifying that he's coming into the pits. So Ensch getting by in that case. But my point was, as there's now just 3 cars remaining on this lead lap, well, my point just being that these cars are going to, Graham Bunyan is going to have to pit. There is no question about it. He will need to pit for more fuel here at the end. And that will leave David Strid and Dan Ensch as the only 2 cars that can possibly make it until the end. They both stopped on lap 112, and technically Ryan Bowles, he's now just stopped on lap 116. He'll make it, but he'll be a lap down. So if this stays green, we definitely could see Strid in victory circle at the end of this one, and possibly Dan Ensch as well having a chance at that. But I don't think Ensch has the speed to be able to do so. So what my point was is, with Ensch sitting now just 6 seconds back of Graham Bunyan, one of the things that Bunyan could try to do would be to really go all out and just set, very, very quick times. And he's trying to do so a little bit right now. He's staying in the 24-second bracket, but right now Strid is even faster than Graham Bunyan. So possibly Bunyan trying to save some fuel. I'm not 100% sure. I thought he was trying to go fast and take a chance that he could possibly put enough time. So you got to put, like, if the pit lane time is, he's only going to need a few seconds of fuel. He won't have to take tires. We're probably looking at only like 32 seconds or so. That's all Bowles did. He just took a little bit of fuel. He was only in his box for 2.63 seconds. And now we're seeing Jason Lowe pitting here as well. So I think he's just starting to do that calculation himself, as well as Mike West making a pit stop here. But yeah, I guess this strategy really catching some of these drivers out here, and kind of interesting to see this. Usually these drivers are certainly much more up on the ball in terms of paying attention to the fuel and how much is left, especially when an opportune yellow comes out and they have a chance to hop into the pits and get service. But either way, Dan Ensch and David Strid right on the ball. However, now we're seeing once again, it looks like Dan Ensch is about 10 seconds back, 11 seconds back of Graham Bunyan. So will Bunyan be able to put another 22 seconds, 23 seconds of gap over Dan Ensch? And that would put Ensch a lap down. And then when Graham has to pit from the lead, he would be able to come back out and either be close to the lead or be still in the lead. So we'll have to watch and see whether or not he can manage to do that. But Bunyan doing a stellar job. He's just running clean lines out in front. He is the only car right now in the 24-second bracket, 24.93 that time by. David Strid in second place with a 25.24. and Dan Ensch running 25.42 out there on the track. So a good fourth-place run right now, looking for Iñigo Mardones of the Necky Racing team. Having that 666 out there, gaining 6 positions, a lot of numerology and a lot of interesting symbolism there. Ryan Bowles in 5th place in the 025 car. And it's been an up and down race for Bowles. He certainly had the pace to do anything that he wanted to do out there, but he just got a little bit too close to David Strid. Sent Strid into the wall, and then Bowles having to take a green flag pit stop just a moment ago, and that's put him a lap down. Rick Lovison having a good run in 6th place, the Berkshire Lakefront Lodge machine. Always a beauty of a livery to show off. Just makes me want to go walk around and stay in his lodge. And they're just going to be coming into spring, coming into the high season. Beautiful time to make your way up there. Should be an absolute fantastic season for Rick, and wish him the best of luck with this season. And you see Jason Lowe sands a right front wing. No telling exactly when or how that happened, but we'll see. If we back it up, we'll see if we can tell whether or not he had it when he entered the pits. This was on lap 120, and he had it at that point. So not sure how he lost it or when he lost it, but this was him making his pit stop. So now without a wing. And the car still drive. It might be a little less downforcey than it was before. So back to this battle, and it does not look like Graham is putting enough time. This, again, his big hope would be that he could put, so with 20 to go, he's got currently a 17-second back to Dan Ensch. So he would need to put effectively pretty close to a second a lap difference between he and Dan. And Dan, that last time, was a 25.54, and Graham Bunyan a 24.85. So it's, my math, I do rough math, and I'm just saying it's close. It's going to be close. But I don't believe that Bunyan is quite putting down the laps that he's going to need to. Not that he could necessarily do much more. But, like, for example, that last lap, 25.36 from Dan Ensch, and Graham Bunyan at 25.07. So it's like, that time it wasn't even a half a second. So this is, I don't think it's going to play out for Graham Bunyan to be able to make that final stop and still get back out there in the lead. Now, again, I could be totally wrong here, and maybe somehow Graham is able to make that car go to the end, but just going by what the fuel windows are, I don't think that is the case. And I'll probably end up with egg all over my face at the end of this one, but I'm just doing my best to try to stay up on what these strategies are and help you out there to watch along. Aussie Racer there checking in with a big smile on his face. I don't know exactly when he did so, but he knows what he's doing. I imagine that was after faking everybody out like he was going to come into the pits. Again, he currently has about an 18-second gap over Dan Ensch. And again, if that doesn't grow to over 30 seconds, there's no way for him to get in and off of pit road fast enough to regain that lead when he comes back out. So, not to mention, Dan has every right to fight for his position, or at least not make it easy to be passed. And so here in about another 5 seconds or so of gap time, Graham is going to have to try to make his way around Dan Ensch. So this is starting to shape up as a very interesting battle. We've got just 14 laps remaining now. At some point, Graham Bunyan will be pitting. The last came in on lap 104, and currently working on lap 138. So we expect him in somewhere around 5 laps to go. Once again, I don't think there's a way for him to pedal this car either. In other words, and if he did, that 8.7 second gap would disappear very rapidly to David Strid. So this is where it gets interesting with these fuel strategy runs and staying up on who has made what pit stops when. We'll get the pit stop lap. There you can see everybody when they came in last. And with 12 laps to go, you can see Bowles making the latest of almost everybody. Lowe second to last there. So this will shape up pretty interesting as we're just about to get to 10 laps to go. Not sure who might be our victor here today. It could still be Graham Bunyan. Perhaps he's got an ace up his sleeve that we don't know about yet. Like I said, you could pedal the car. You could try to, just coast. And here comes Graham Bunyan down into the pits for that final stop. And we know this is not going to work out for him to get back out there into the lead. He's going to come down this long pit road. And here comes David Strid by. There is your pass for the lead, and should Strid not have any more issues, he should be able to make it to the end. And now we still watch Graham Bunyan sitting on pit road, taking full service, 8.47 seconds. Not really sure why he sat on pit lane for so long. He's now going to have an 11-second gap to get up to about 12 seconds to get up to Dan Ensch, and 22 to David Strid. So here comes Strid around, possibly going to put him a lap down at this point. Though I think Bunyan's pace is going to start to pick up, and with those fresh tires, etc., I think he'll try to have a lunge at Dan Ensch before the end of this one. But with 8 laps remaining, 8 seconds the gap now between David Strid and Dan Ensch. As I mentioned, that last fuel up for Dan Ensch, and David Strid really playing the factor here, and strategy finally coming into it, as the decision to come into the pits when they did have put David Strid and Dan Ensch into position to capitalize. Strid, even though he had an incident earlier, managing to come in on exactly the right lap to top up. And with 7 laps to go, he looks like he's now in position to possibly take victory here today. Dan Ensch, he has a 9-second gap back to Graham Bunyan. He could afford to lose a full second a lap, and he still would end up in second place. So really, the question is right now, is he going to be able to hold on and just stay out of incidents is always kind of the question. But we watch on to find out whether or not he can do so. As now, what would really change things is we see Iñigo Mardones making a late pit stop, and Mike West doing the exact same thing. What would really change things is if a yellow came out, because that would surely give Graham Bunyan a chance to get up there and challenge for this race win again. So we'll watch and see whether or not that does happen. But with just, I believe it's just 6 laps to go here. And here comes David Strid down pit lane. I'm not sure why he's needing to pit. I doubt he needed fuel. But perhaps he did, and that will move Graham Bunyan up, with Dan Ensch taking over the lead. If Dan can hold on till the end, we will have a new victor this season. For the first time this season, Dan Ensch in the ALZ.org Last Lap Motorsports machine in position to take victory And what a sweet victory it would be for him after a long dry stretch in victory lane. To do so here at Gateway would be quite phenomenal. So here we go, just 3 laps remaining. Dan Ensch currently sitting there, and just now a 1.4 second gap to Graham Bunyan. And will we see this? I don't know why so much time eroded off of Dan Ensch's gap back to Graham Bunyan, but with 2 to go, will Bunyan spoil the show once again? He's done this in the past. On the last lap, he's managed to take victory from Dan Ensch. Will we see a last lap lunge? Well, last lap motorsports, Dan Ensch, will he be able to battle for position, or is he just trying to stretch this tank? That's entirely a possibility. He may just not have the ability. And there, last time by, Graham Bunyan setting fastest lap over the whole race. And on the final lap on the backstretch, Graham Bunyan is going to take this pass and steal the victory back in his own name. Coming to the flag, it is Graham Bunyan who manages to overcome some adversity and still get into victory lane. I think Dan Ensch, they're managing to just bring it home on fumes. I thought it would be a lot more in his favor than that, but I think just having to run the pace that he did, wow, what a frustration for Dan Ensch to come home in second, and that's why we saw David Strid make that last second stop and still settle for third place. But congratulations to the 101 machine, who manages to overcome adversity and make a pit stop and get back out there and make a pass on the final lap. We'll be right back with final results, and we'll get a chance to talk with your victor here in Victory Circle. Stay tuned here on VirtualRacing.Network. And welcome back here on VirtualRacing.Network. I'm Trevor Greenfield. It was sure an exciting race. I hope you got a chance to check it out today, all this race, and see the way that it unfolded. But race number 8 of 12 of season 18 ended up in a very familiar way. There was a definite moment where it looked like things were in question, but Graham Bunyan manages to make it back out there and take victory here in the 101 machine by 3.187 seconds over Dan Ensch for the ALZ.org Last Lap Motorsports machine. Third place going to David Strid. Looked like it was his chance to take victory, but I guess just not quite having the longevity in that fuel tank and needing to take a last second stop puts him down into third. Iñigo Mardones with a great top 5, getting 4th position for Necki Racing Team, albeit a lap down. And Ryan Bowles, what can be said about today's race? He was once again competitive, and once again in the middle of an incident that cost him a top 1, 2, or 3, ended up down as a top 5. Jason Lowe, he also had an incident. He was running there with Bowles up in the top 3 and 4, but with the rescue ranch on the side pod, he manages to recover and get into 6th place. Hopefully not a blue screen of death. That was similar. It could have been, but either way, he manages to recover. Rick Lovison in 7th place here today. MJ Ramirez, he had an incident as well. That put him back into 8th, and Mike West in 9th. Rick Kelbaugh for Team Stick Quick not able to complete all of the laps here today and ending up back in 10th. So with that, we're going to check in now with our victory circle discussion, and we will be able to, let's go ahead and talk to Dan Ensch first. Dan, welcome to the post-race show discussion, and my goodness me, that was a heck of a race. It changed so much, so frequently throughout the race, I wouldn't even know where to begin, but you managed to climb 4 spots and nail second place at the end. Congratulations, and talk us through your night.
Roller coaster, man. Like you say, up and down, and all kinds of little things happening along the way to have to overcome. But you know, we got the breaks we needed and got back on the lead lap, and then got another yellow real quick. So that put me in pretty good position. I knew it was going to be real close on the fuel, and I knew David stopped with me on that last stop, and I knew he wasn't going to make it if he kept going as fast as he did. And Graham was not going to make it. I knew they weren't going to make it. And so I just went, I sold out to the idea of just trying to make it to the end and saving fuel. And it came one corner too short, man. One corner.
Well, and it was that close. You could just see the gap evaporating there very, very quickly as Graham set the fastest lap of the race there just on the second to last lap. But still, you managed to get the endalz.org or the endalz Last Lap Motorsports machine up there, out there in front, and lead some laps. That must have felt great. And in addition, because of the fact that you did stay out there and you didn't have to make that last second pit stop, you also managed to hold on to second place.
Yeah, I'll take a second to these guys any day of the week. So I can't be anything but happy with the way things turned out today. But boy, it didn't seem like it at first. There was a problem with iRacing shuffling the order right before the start, way back early in the race, and I lost a lot of momentum there, almost half a lap, just trying to let the proper driver go by me. And then we had a little bit of contact here and there, and little bitty things that happened that fortunately didn't end my day, and I was able to come back and persevere. But boy, that got exciting there for a little while. If I could have just gotten one more lap worth of tow before I had to take off, I think I would have made it. But man,
frustrating to be so close. It certainly makes you want to come back next week. You were faced with that last yellow flag, and you did come in and take fuel, but then you chose to come in a couple of laps later, and you and David were a couple of the only ones that chose to do so. We saw Ryan Bowles not come in and fill up the very last chance that he had, and we also saw Graham Bunyan choose to not take that. But you were on the ball. Is there something that you do in particular to watch for your fuel mileage? Are you still using iRacing's auto fuel? What was your ticket to making sure that you knew you could get enough fuel there to make it to the end?
A lot of practice. I go out and I practice not just the group practice sessions. I go out and run different fuel scenarios and figure out what's going to work even without anybody in front of me. I'll go to the iRacing AI practice sessions, put about 20 cars on the track and see what happens in traffic. There's a lot more practice involved than people know about. If you really want to try to stay competitive with guys like Graham and David, you got to figure out every scenario you can before you even go in. I also practice my pin in and out a lot, and I think I actually picked up a little bit on my pit ins and outs because I'd continually come out ahead of somebody that went in just before me. So the practice makes a big difference.
Absolutely, and that's on top of your many years of racing experience here on the iRacing platform, and you needed every single bit of all of that to take on the challengers of Graham Bunyan and David Strid today. Well, you managed to almost put one in the history books and get into the W column again here this season, but either way, it feels great, I'm sure, to have the ALZ.org represented out there and take second place. Anybody to thank before we move on here?
Well, I want to thank you for the great job you do broadcasting this thing, and I want to thank Jason for putting this league together. I know he's been having some computer problems lately, and I feel for him. I really do. But it's Mauro and Mike West, our race judge, if you want to call him that. And everybody that works on this league, they do a great job, and I couldn't appreciate it more. And Graham's lucky I like him because I really thought about putting him in the wall on that last turn, but I like him too much, so we let him go.
Well, certainly kind of you, always the gentleman and thinking of others, and always great to have you out here and being super competitive. You keep them honest at least, Dan, and one of these days we're going to see that ALZ.org in victory lane again. So good luck with the rest of the season, my friend.
Thank you much, and we'll see you mañana.
Absolutely. Well, mañana?
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk to you tomorrow if I can get a hold of you.
You bet, my friend. Anytime. Door's always open. Same. So I'll talk to you tomorrow.
We've got some other leagues to be concerned with now.
Oh, we do. No, I saw your Discord message, so I'll shoot you a message back over there. I'd be glad to talk with you.
All righty, man. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. So that's Dan Ensch checking in with us. Very close to taking victory here, and would have been a super special victory at a track like this. It's a classic. It's one that the real life series run at, and still awesome to get up there on the podium and take second. And of course, I always shoot past David Strid to wherever he's finishing, whether that's at the top or bottom of the order. It's because he doesn't like to be interviewed. He doesn't come over onto Discord, so we never get a chance to interview him, but congratulations to him on a great run today and finishing in third spot. And now we'll get a chance to bring in our top finisher today, and I tell you what, you sure made it interesting, Graham. We thought that it might be somebody else in victory lane for a while. You had to play catch-up. You had to put in the fastest lap of the race right at the end of the race, and you managed to take victory. Congratulations on a hard-fought but well-earned victory here at Gateway.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Yeah, wow, had my work cut out for me there. I all started again from a horrible qualifying time. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, starting in second, you had to work your way forward, and then you kind of rode around behind David Strid. Looked like infamous, Strid, Bunyan, have it all under control. We might just see it finish that way. Things really broke open, though, with that last round of pit stops. Talk us through what was in your strategy, in your mind. Did you think, nobody's going to be able to make it to the end, so there's no point in pitting right now? Did you think, well, I want to hold on to this track position, and I'm going to go out there and try and put a bunch of time down, and I'll be able to pit anyway? What was your decision-making process when you saw Dan Ensch and David Strid come into the pits?
Yeah, look, I mean, from the very beginning, it was like I was behind Dave, and I just thought I'd try and see how much I could save behind him, and it was, I think you had to try and get to 38 laps to try and drop a pit stop, but you had to do that every lap, and there was no way I was going to do that. I'd drive too heavy-footed to do that sort of thing. So it was, I don't know, it was like the second pit stop, I think, and I was riding right around behind Dave, and it felt like that Dave had actually slowed down a bit, finally got past Dave and just sort of eyes forward, I guess, and try and make up as much time. A couple of yellows come into play. I was thinking about covering the guys when they pitted, but once I worked out the fuel and everything else, and it was still not going to help me out. I would have still used too much fuel because I would have had to try and fight to get back up the front anyway. So, I just had to make up that time, and I knew Dan was going to be so close on fuel because as soon as I seen David pitting, I knew Dan was right at the bottom of that pot, and there was no fuel left in that car. So it was just eyes forward and just go for it then after that last pit stop.
Well, you did go for it, and you managed to take all of those seconds of gap off of Dan. Dan doing his best to hang out there in front and get across the line with fumes in the tank, but of course you had just enough to make it. Now, there's another question. You sat on pit lane for an extra amount of time. I'm just curious, was there a reason for that? Because it says your pit stop time was 8.47 seconds. Did you take tires and fuel in a full fuel load?
I did, yeah. No, I didn't take a full fuel load. I only took, what did I put in? 17 litres, which is, I don't know, 5 gallons? No, not even that.
Okay.
you know, if you park a little bit skew-if or off-center at Gateway, it absolutely canes you on a pit stop.
Interesting. Was not aware of that. Always love picking up these little tidbits. But either way, you chose to take tires there, and that must have been the secret at the end, as you were able to erase that huge gap that he had, and not only that, but set your fastest time at the very end of the race. So another awesome victory for you tonight, Graham. Anybody that you'd like to thank before we close out the broadcast?
Oh, look, man, everybody. Everybody that turns up, and I just wish a lot more people would turn up. And it's a great league, and hey, it's great competition. We're all as fair as we can be. We're all gentlemen on track, so you know there's racing where there's racing, and there's been a gentleman when there's been a gentleman. But look, everybody that turns up week in, week out, we have a full set of guys that are dedicated, turning up each week, and they do it. We've got a few guys that are sort of casual who turn up every now and then, which, you know, adds the numbers. But it'd be great to have a full field of at least 25, 26 cars. I'd love that, but it'd make it interesting. More cars, more interesting, more interesting for the viewers once we come out of this dungeon. But yeah, no, Jason, always for keeping this league going. MJ for doing what he does and keeping the league going. Mike West doing all the stewarding. Dave, of course, doing the setups. This setup was not as tough as last week's setup. Last week was terrible. I still hate that track. I'm still kicking myself about that track. But anyway, yeah, just everybody, yourself, everyone.
Well, obviously, thank you for putting on a great show every week. And this was a test here today. We don't always see you have to be tested quite so hard to try to come back and take victory, but as always, you set the benchmark here. And also, this is one of the only broadcasts, even though it's an underground one, but it's one of the only IR-18 leagues that actually gets a broadcast, so we would definitely love to see more participation. Anybody who wants to join, the link is down in the description. And hey, Graham, congratulations on victory. It looks like you're just about to put this one in the books, and as we get to round number 9 next week, I would say with another top finish, you're going to put this one out of reach of anyone else. We'll see you repeat once again as champion, so it's got to be on the back of your mind.
You know what, honestly, I haven't really thought about it this season. I've started off badly this season again. I think I've done that a couple of seasons ago, but no, I've got a couple of bad races at the beginning there, so you know, call them a wash. One is definitely a drop week, and the other one is, I wish it was a drop week as well, but can only drop one. Yeah, tough going, but it's always great to fight these guys up the front like Dave and Ryan and Jason. You know, they're always there, and Dan with his sneaky little fuel saving and everything else. You know, it's it'll work for him one day. I think it worked once. He's got to get up there and race. He's fast enough to do it. Don't hold back.
Well, today his secret was definitely managing that fuel tank and making the pit stop at the end, but certainly Dan has said he'll go for it as much as he can. I just think, Graham, you seem to have the pace that is very difficult to match, and we'll see whether anybody can challenge you next week out. And either way, it's great having you here in the league, and good luck with everything for the future of the season. Next week, of course, we are headed to Atlanta, which is basically a super speedway. That should be absolute insanity, which I'm sure you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, you know my feeling on super speedways. They're anybody's race, but again, it depends what setup we get thrown at us. Again, I'd like to see setups that have got a lot more tire deg, which makes it it becomes a driver's race then. You know, you've got to drive the car, none of this flat to the floor. And that's what I like about some of these smaller tracks, is that you've actually got to drive the car. And I think a lot of these guys do quite well, and I think they should put a little bit of road experience under their belt as well, because it'll help them out around tracks like this.
Well, either way, I'm sure you'll enjoy celebrating this one. It was hard fought, and you can go slaughter some people on PUBG and go off and ride your motorcycle. Hopefully everybody who's a friend with you over on Facebook can follow along with that. Great having you here, Graham. We'll let you go, my friend. Good luck with the rest of the season.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for everything you do, Trev. Thank
Absolutely. You. My pleasure. That's Graham Bunyan. Takes victory once again here for race number 8 of 12. Is he about to put another season championship in the books? Tune in next week to find out. Same time, same channel. Of course, you can get the link over on Discord and on our Facebook group. It is going to be a hot one in Atlanta. High banks and high speeds. You won't want to miss it. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody. And as always, take care. And it's also Mama's Day coming up, so at least in the United States. So make sure, give your mom a call, celebrate her. You never know when it's your last time. Hate to say it that way, but it's true. Enjoy your mom while she's still around. Until then, have a great day. Bye-bye, everybody.